Hey, so recently I achieved something very cool, in my opinion. One of my passion projects is working on a generative audio workstation. So basically, it generates MIDI. So maybe it's best I show you. This is the application I build. And through text, you can create layers of music. So this is a project I'm working on. It's kind of like a disco house kind of thing. And I'll kind of click through and notice these are different sections here. So you can see the drums, and I described all these layers, and it generated it. Synths, I described these layers. The bass line, I described it. So let me just like zero in on one layer. I said a funky synth riff. Let's listen to it. And what's happening there is basically when I said funky synth riff, there's one system, which we won't even talk about right now. It's a bit more of a solved problem, but it generated MIDI. It generated the notes like a player piano, but it doesn't generate the sound. What you would have to do normally is you have the MIDI, and then you open up a virtual synth. In this case, it's Diva, and then you configure it, and like if you look at it, you have all these knobs, and you turn those dials until it's a sound you like. And that's the traditional, or at least for the last 30, 40 years, way to make like electronic music on a computer, or one of the ways. So the challenge with generative audio is how can the system figure out what sounds good without a human to tell you what sounds good, right? And that's the big problem. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I pulled it off, honestly, which is quite remarkable with the help of some coding agents. And the real trick came down to learning about this data set. This is called CLAP. So it's a contrastive language audio pre-training data set and model. So basically what it is millions of key values. So picture a dog barking associated with an audio clip, like or whatever a dog sounds like, and or you'll have like horse, and then it'll be like nah, or just millions of audio. Now, so the intention of this data set, I think its most basic or obvious use case is for audio searching. So if you had a lot of files and you just search for a horse sound, it'll find something that sounds like a horse. But what I have learned recently is you can use this, and maybe you can think about it in reverse. Okay, so let's go back to this picture of a synthesizer. Now, when you have a synthesizer, you can turn all these knobs, right? This is a pretty basic synthesizer. There could be like 100 plus knobs or dials you can turn. Well, what you can do is basically, brute force the turning of these knobs. There could be billions of permutations. Majority just sound like weird nothingness. But if you turn them once in a while, they will all of a sudden match or become in close proximity with something in the data set. So in the data set, maybe something's described as buttery, smooth jazz bass. And then the algorithm, what it does in the background is it like finds, it'll be like, hold on, I just got very close to what this data set describes as buttery, smooth bass. Okay, if you can kind of imagine navigating a three-dimensional space, and there's all these tags floating like planets in outer space. And then as you turn all the knobs on the synthesizer, you're kind of carving a path through, I guess they say, the latent space. And every now and then you'll get close to something that is meaningful to humans, like a trumpet sound or something. And when the algorithm realizes you're near that, in proximity to that label, you capture that and use it as an anchor. So that's like, okay, Just stop right now. Whatever dials are turned in their settings, save that setting and give it a name, because this is similar to what people call buttery bass. And then from there, you can branch out and go around it. So if that's buttery bass, like what's a crunchy bass, or like deep Reese bass or something, right? And you have all these probes going concurrently and finding sounds. So basically, what I'm saying is using this data set, these clap embeddings, you can brute force, or I shouldn't say, yeah, it is kind of brute force, but it's like you can automate the creation of millions of presets. Like you have to realize that, like, for the last kind of like 30 years, presets, like people will make like a dozen presets and they'll sell them, and that's considered intellectual property, so you can't really ship an application. And that's cool. People will still do that because, I mean, the human ear is the best. Like, it's the source. But if you want to mass produce now synth presets, you can. If maybe there's better ways to do it. If there are, share with me. But I'm very proud of what I was able to figure out. And I don't have much more than that. I'll maybe make a blog post or something. So if there's other people who are passionate about, machine learning and audio, they can learn to do them themselves. But yeah, maybe I'll just play my application again so you can kind of judge the quality again. All right, I think that's good for now. But yeah, I hope other people like me are able to benefit from that thing I learned. Okay, thanks. Bye.